Welcome to this video. Yeah, this is a new episode of the Viewer Games Reviewed. Reviewed? Yeah, I keep getting feedback that I'm mispronouncing that, but okay, what can you do? Let's see. We have a second game here that I'm going to show you. Our viewer is the white player here, Piotr Rutkowski from Poland. He's now rated 1400, as it is also apparent here in the text here, 1400. But at the time that game was played, and the black player here is also rated 1400. At that time he was not rated at all. He's not a very experienced player, but he played a really good game here, and this is the game that he submitted. Yeah, we're going to have a look. He starts out with e4, our viewer, and black player here, who I decided to not name. I mean, he's not knowing about this, so why not? Just keep it anonymous. He played the Alekhine's defense. This is an opening that is not seen very often on any level. Yeah, on the top level, basically never played, and there are some specialists, on amateur level or intermediate level who play that. And very often it is an opening that annoys the white player. Yeah? It's nothing that you get very often. You kind of don't know what to do. In any case, it's not an opening where white should despair. It's something that you should welcome, because normally white gets a pretty good game by easy means. In the game here, Piotr chooses a very simple continuation. He just played the move d3 to cover this pawn. To be honest, this is about the only move that I don't like in the game that he's playing very early on. It's not that this is terribly bad, it covers the pawn, but it's just not very active, and white can play e5 against this opening, and he really should. Even if you don't know it too well, it's still the move that you should play. It's also relatively easy to play, because what you just do is you put those pawns here in the center, and here the easiest way to play is just to take on d6. After any recapture, white is just going to develop by normal means, a knight to c3, a knight to f3. The only move that you maybe should be aware of, that it is often a good idea to play the move h3, to get this bishop g4 possibility out of the picture. Other than that, it's just very straightforward development, like this, let's say. Play this move, and then you go here or here, and then you castle. And white has a nice center, and it is easy to play. You're not really facing any big problems. The other recapture, this here, white has a very nice setup that is useful to remember, where you play this bishop e3, rook c1, and the idea is that whenever black plays e5, you have the opportunity to take, and play c5, gaining lots of space on the queen side. That's all you need to know to battle this opening, really, up to a very decent level, let's say 2000 level. I mean, that's all you need to know. Not really much more. And it gives you a decent game with chances for an advantage. Okay, d3, as mentioned, that's not a mistake. It just doesn't try to do something really against this knight f6 move. Now black has a relatively easy game if he plays it right, but, well, he doesn't really, but we will see. Black plays d5. This is good, of course. You put a pawn in the center and attack white's pawn on e4. Another good move here is, of course, e5, gaining space. And this can easily look like a Russian defense, a Petrov, where white has played d3. Those moves are all good, but d5 is fine, certainly. And now here Piotr plays e5, attacking the knight after all. So he wasn't afraid really to advance at all, he just delayed it for one move. However, when we push the pawn to e5, in almost any given situation, we want support for this pawn. And very often you need a pawn support. You cannot, let's put this on the board. Black plays the normal move knight d7. This is attacked and you want to support this pawn on e5. And very often it is just necessary and a useful thing to have the pawn on d4 here to cover this e5 pawn reliably. So the move d3 is something that is kind of superfluous in this situation. You rather want the pawn on d4, and we will see in the game that he plays the move d3, d4 in relatively short order. If he would have played d4 now, black, I mean, he's not forced to, but black could even play the move e6, which kind of looks like a French defense where white has used two moves to play d3 to d4. Yeah, if the knight would be on c3 or d2 already, it would be a French, but this move is missing due to white having lost the tempo. Very often you want a pawn supporting e5. Yeah, he played knight f3 though, which is not bad. And black played e6. That's not a bad move. However, he sort of gives up on the idea to put his bishop out of the pawn chain. On the other hand, if you want to put it out of the pawn chain, you would have to move the knight on d7 again. But it was a possible idea. Let's say he could have also started with c5, knight c6, and maybe put the knight here to put the bishop out, finally, to f5 or g4. However, e6 is not a mistake, as mentioned. It's a playable option. e6. And now white went bishop to g5. Yeah, developing this bishop and asking black, okay, what are you going to do about your attack on the queen? Bishop e7 or f6, the only moves that keep material on the board. Black played the move f6. This is playable. It's not bad, but it is a choice that involves some risk because you're weakening your central structure a little bit, and you're also weakening your e5 square. We will see after the capture. Black took. Black now has a weakness on e5. Now this is an unprotected square. It's not controlled by any of the pawns, and also it cannot be controlled anymore by a pawn. So this will always be the duty of a piece to sort of take care of this square. The alternative for black was bishop e7, and this is the move that I would have preferred here as black, simply keeping the structure sound. White will probably take, and here he has to take into account that black maybe is putting this threat into the game, queen b4 check, winning the b2 pawn. So white will probably do something about it, let's say c3. And after, let's say, c5, white will probably go d4. And we have a French kind of structure where white has lost the tempo with d3, d4, but it's still equal. It's an equal position. Black is a bit suffering from this bishop, but it's not so terrible. He has chances to sometimes get it out with b6 and bishop a6, or still f6 later. The move f6 that he played in the game is not bad as mentioned, but it is relatively early. You can sometimes delay it up to a maybe more proper moment. Yeah, white took, knight takes, and the move d4. That's important, yeah. It's kind of, yeah, you don't really want to move the pawn twice, but it has to be done. So you have to, in a way, admit a little bit, okay, it's better there. That's a good move. It prepares bishop d3, of course, where you want to put the bishop. This is the best square. It's important to think of a setup and go for it. The west-white setup here is d4, bishop on d3. Yeah, this is by far the most active way to play this. If you, after knight f6, just think, okay, I want to develop. Okay, let's play bishop e2. Yeah, you're developing and you're preparing castling, but this doesn't serve a purpose on e2. It's just a relatively passively placed bishop. It's better to play it like in the game. Yeah, put this on d4 where it belongs, controlling e5 and preparing to put the bishop on the best possible square. It's quality, yeah, not not quantity. Yeah, you can play quicker here, yeah, like bishop e2, castles, but then you don't have the pieces on good squares. You rather invest this move d4 and then put it where it belongs. Yeah, an interesting moment now. This is in fact the first key moment of this game. Not a decisive one, but it shows that what black is doing here. He plays the move h6. Yeah, black is attacking this bishop, and in this way wins a little bit of time, because white really does not want to take on f6. If white takes here, he gives up the bishop pair, and the queen on f6 is even having some influence over the e5 square. Yeah, after, let's say, here, or knight to c6, c5, that's kind of moves. Then the queen is actually helping to cover the weakness on e5. This is why white does not really want to take there. He played bishop h4. The problem with this h6 move is it's a very, let's say, it's a very short-term thing that it gains. It gains this attack on the bishop retreats, and then you have to take stock. Did h6 help me or not? And in this case, we can relatively quickly see it did weaken something. The h6 move weakened the g6 square enormously. This light square is very weak, especially considering that there is not even a piece that controls it. I mean, theoretically speaking, if there's a bishop on h7, let's say, this is a different matter. Yeah? This bishop would cover this weakness, but the bishop is home on c8. g6 is a completely weak square. If you just imagine a queen hitting there, or a bishop or a knight, it's very, very problematic. And the benefit is relatively little. You have this short-term attack on the bishop, which white will, of course, take care of, and you really haven't gained a lot. Sometimes you want to play h6 in some situations to gain this little cubbyhole for the king, where the king is on g8, so that you cannot get back rank mated. But here already the f-pawn has moved, and it's mostly the weakness that counts. So this is something that black will come to regret. He played bishop e7 now. Yeah, that is an okay move. I would also think of, but especially, well, here it's already a bit tricky with h6 being played. If we go back a moment, here I would also think of this kind of development. c5, attacking white center and trying to put knight c6 and bishop d6. Yeah, this is a setup that will come to my mind. Yeah, a bit more ambitious, but it's more active. You want to control e5 and make sure that white is not installing a long-term piece there. This is in fact a plan that is more appropriate without h6. If we look at this h6 here, if you want to invest this kind of time with c5, you're getting hit with this move, which isn't a problem with the pawn back on h7, but here bishop g6 is a very problematic move. Yeah, this shows that the move h6 is not really helping black. He went bishop e7, probably also for the reason that after bishop knight e5 was played, but let's say after bishop d3, now black can castle and make sure that the bishop is not coming to g6 with a check spoiling the castling rights. However, the white player here went knight e5 instead of bishop d3. That is also a good move. It looks at this weakness, very important, and it also addresses the idea of c5. If black now would play c5, white can take, and all of a sudden
check,
pay a very, very unwelcome with it with the queen. Yeah, white is winning here immediately, at least in exchange. Yeah, here you can think of this, putting the king out of back from the back rank. Yeah, it's very, very endangered there. Or you can simply pick up the exchange if you like. So bishop f6 is a big threat. Yeah, this is something that black absolutely has to take care of. So what should he play? There's a very clear answer to that. Black here had really only one decent move. He had to castle. Yeah, and note that again, this is not helping him. Yeah, this weakness. It would be much better to have the pawn back on h7 in this situation. Here, white probably will play. I mean, he can do this, but it's not so clear that it helps. But white will probably just continue his development, and we go from there. This is still a decent position. As mentioned, I don't like h6, but it's not that black is losing here or anything. However, he saw this idea, and he decided to fight it with another move. He played the move g5. Yeah, this is really a big mistake to play g5 here. Yeah, what black did not do here, he did not really ask himself the question, okay, where am I going to put my king? Where will my king find a safe place? Yeah, with all those pawn moves, note, yeah, those pawn moves, the king does not have a pawn shelter anymore, and the only cover that he has is other pieces that surround him. So it's not that he's getting checkmated in like 5 moves, but he will become under huge attack. Here is an interesting moment actually. He played bishop g3, our viewer, and it's a good move. You also have to ask yourself, can you punish this directly? A move trying to punish this directly was queen d3. That's a move to think about. Threatens mate. Queen g6 check, king f8, queen f7 mate. However, what you need to think of still is, what does black do? Black plays the move he has to play, rook g8, yeah, covering this. And then we have to take care about the bishop again. We don't have a checkmate. Yeah, so we have to play bishop g3. And now if you think of it, you could have played bishop g3 immediately and not insert queen d3, rook g8. You can ask yourself, have I gained from the move queen d3? Is the queen well positioned there? While it is not terrible to have it there, wouldn't you rather want the bishop there, getting out on d3? And maybe the queen jumping in this direction? Yeah, it's actually a case where the short-term threat, the threat on g6, is tempting, but the queen is not so well positioned there. I think that the move bishop g3 is just better. It has to be played. We cannot play with a piece sacrifice, so put it there, and the intention is to use the bishop to invade on the light squares. Black played knight bd7 now. Yeah, that does make some sense, developing this piece and fighting for e5. Yeah, and now again a move I like, bishop d3, completing development. Yeah, not completing, but continuing to develop. The bishop is on its best diagonal and it intends to invade there on g6. Just very strong move. Another good move here was h4. This also came very much into consideration. Whenever they go h6 g5 or a6 b5 on the other side of the board, you have to consider the move h4 or a4 on the other side of the board, simply because it's a tool to get your rook into play from the initial position. You don't need to castle then anymore. Yeah, the rook is doing something here, trying to open up the h-file. This is also a strong move. Both was good. We'll see that in the game. Bishop d3. Yeah, now black was very much concerned about the bishop g6 idea. And correctly so. This was a big threat. He had a choice here. Yeah, he needed to do something about it, and he decided to play knight to f8, covering this square. It was probably a little bit tougher to take on e5, but it's not fun. Yeah, black is under huge pressure, and it is not easy at all to give him some advice. After the capture, it's interesting here. White can take with the pawn and get this in, or he can take with the bishop and keep this, put this on a strong square. That's actually debatable what's better. I think both moves are pretty good. This is the more short-term centered move, let's say, where you are very much tempted by this check, while this keeps this bishop on a very strong post. Both would have been good. Knight f8, however, was played, and here we come to the move that I already suggested earlier, h4, using the rook on the initial spot. Castling would be a mistake here. Yeah, it's not the way to punish black to the fullest. h4 develops the rook. Yeah, this is a developing move. Yeah, black is under huge trouble. H takes g5 is the threat. He played rook g8. And now we see that with the capture, our rook has gained access to this open h file. Very nicely played. Yeah, white now had a wide choice of attractive moves. but here the white player Piotr Rutkowski, I'm sorry, he chose a very straightforward approach, and this is something that is very often rewarded in chess. Yeah, just play with a purpose and follow up on this idea that you have. He played rook h6. Yeah, the idea is rook takes f6, bishop takes f6, and queen h5 check. He saw that the queen on h5 in combination with the knight is deadly, so he tries to make this idea work. That's very nicely played. Yeah, following up on this concept, on this plan. And black really doesn't have much that he can do. He has to play this move, blocking this diagonal. Otherwise, white, I mean, almost without any exception, would be able to take on f6 and get this check in. Now we come to the most interesting moment of this game, actually. Yeah, here it's very, what the white player played now here, our viewer, is really a fantastic idea, I believe. Yeah, I would be very proud of him if he would come up with that idea, if he was my student, because it's highly original. It's a really original solution. It was not, if this would be the only winning move, it would be really a touch of genius, but here white can almost with any move maintain a very, very big advantage. So white can also play a non-fancy move, let's say with like knight c3 or queen e2, and be much better. This is probably, I say, what I would go for. Just put out this piece, queen out, and long castles to get all pieces in the attack. This is strong, huh? But the solution played by Piotr here is really, really excellent, very original. He played the move king to e2, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult at first to yeah, what is the idea of the move? And the idea is really great. He was thinking, okay, I want the queen to h5. This is the square where I want to deliver the deadly check. So I'm going for it. Queen to h1, queen to h5 after the sacrifice on f6. This was his idea, and this is a really great idea. Yeah, king e2 to get this going. It is just a case where you could argue that this is a little bit too complicated. Yeah, white can also just develop and be very, very much okay, probably winning. But it is strong and a very original solution. Black really has no defense to that idea. Yeah, queen to h1, take on f6, queen h5. It's just great. Yeah, he played the move knight to e4. And yeah, here it comes. Threatening. Yeah, this is probably going to be a mate. Yeah, there's really no way to defend. Black now has to do something about this check. He went rook g5. Yeah, he can also take on g3 first, but it doesn't make a whole lot of a difference. Knight c3. Yeah, getting the last pieces out. And black now played bishop f6. It was a bit tougher to take on g3. Check. It puts up more resistance, but ultimately, yeah, after this, white will get in this check. Yeah, the idea that he was putting his hopes on with king e2, queen h1, white will be able to realize at the end with winning effect. It's very nice. Yeah, bishop f6 was played. Takes. Yeah, and knight takes. Very nice. Now we are forking those. Black played this. Yeah, and now here white has more than one way to win the game, but he found a nice one. Took with the rook. Rook captures.
Check.
And the check. Finally, yeah, that was the big idea that he played for. King e7. And bishop h4. What a fantastic pin, yeah. Black has no way out here. Absolutely no way out. He went knight to h7. And now, yeah, well, white has more than one move to win, but
checkmate.
If you can mate the guy, you really should do it. Mate ends the game. Yeah, a very nice, quick win here for our viewer. And he really played a good game here. Yeah, the only, as mentioned, the only move that I'm not really liking is this very early d3 in the opening, which is kind of passive. But he did not play passively afterwards. That's very important. Yeah, he was probably intimidated by this opening that he maybe never faced before, and yeah, kind of decided, yeah, let's play a safe move first. But he didn't play passively afterwards, but he played all the, if we go back, do a quick recap, he played all the aggressive moves that he needed to play. d4 is important to get to the all-important d3 square. And here he played the aggressive moves knight e5, bishop d3, h4. This is how you want to play. Play with a purpose and get your attack in. If you can get active and attack the guy, you really should do that. So very nicely played. And yeah, then we came to this really nice move, king e2, with this highly original idea to get the queen to the key square. Very nicely played. Yeah, you can only argue that it is unnecessarily complicated, but very, very nice. So this was the second installment of the Viewer Games Reviewed. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a little bit quicker than the game before, but if the games are longer and have much content, the video is going to be as long as it needs to be. I'm not going to rush things. It's about learning things, and if it takes a little bit of time to get all points in, then so be it. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and well, this series will continue. Thanks.